afternoon will surpass the threshold of 108 for these heat advisories. And again, we could see those isolated spots, which we have seen over the recent days, hitting 112. Now there's going to be more of those areas and for a more prolonged amount of time. So that heat advisory, once it goes into effect at noon today, it's going to continue through 7 p.m. on Saturday. What could help break a little bit of that heat up will be a few cooling downpours, and that'll be associated with a frontal boundary. That frontal boundary right now right along the Red River, and we've got some showers and storms filling behind the front. As that front continues to work its way toward the south, we're going to start to see more moisture to work with, especially as we get into Saturday afternoon. But for today, just enough of that moisture will lead to some clouds, maybe a couple of light rain showers turning brief in a couple of spots. But right now the models are painting a little bit more activity if we do see any showers, mainly south of I-10. So for most of us, that rain chance at 10%, there's a higher chance that you're going to see that heat, and we're talking temperatures climbing somewhere in the upper 90s. I'll have more details on that heat advisory, along with a tropical wave now that has a high probability of becoming our next named storm, and where it's headed coming up in just a few minutes. Watch this morning, Sam. We've been monitoring the haze. That's been the biggest thing over the past couple of days, but you can clearly see the thickest concentration now of that Saharan dust has shifted well up to the north. We're going to continue to see improvements for us today, but you will notice a wind shift coming in out of the north will allow for a little bit of that haze to return over the weekend, but most of it is gone as we start off the new work week. No big concern there. We'll be monitoring that front, though, to bring us a little bit of a relief, take the edge off a little bit of some of that heat over the weekend. We'll get back to our local weather, but first let's talk about the latest on the tropics. There are signs, as I mentioned yesterday, that this tropical wave now is getting its act together, and you can now see the showers and thunderstorms has increased, as well as the formation odds. So the latest from the National Hurricane Center is even from last night's update. They've upped the latest on the formation odds up to 50%, and this is over the next 48 hours, and then early next week it's now up to 80%. So as this tropical wave continues to track toward the west-northwest, it's going to encounter conditions that are favorable for development as it approaches the Florida states and along the west coast of Florida. It has now been giving a name, not a tropical depression, but Invest 97L. So the National Hurricane Center is going to start sending out aircraft, hurricane hunters to investigate this system, and some of the latest computer models, now that it is in Invest, is showing that it's going to continue this track toward the west-northwest, and you can see where the spaghetti models are mainly confined to the northern parts of Cuba, and then it makes that shift to the north, right around the Keys. There's a couple models that take it out further to the west. At this point, it doesn't look like it's going to be making a play toward us here along the western Gulf of Mexico, but it is going to have some impacts there along the eastern Gulf as well as parts of Florida, and we're looking at potentially seeing that continue to rain itself out over the mid-Atlantic coastline, again beginning this weekend into early next week. So the heaviest of that rain stays away from us over the next 7 days. There will be some daily rain showers between tomorrow through maybe on Monday, but our highest probability of rain chances will be Saturday and Sunday. Our rain chance today stays slim. We're talking less than a 20% chance. We did encounter a brief heavy downpour across parts of Harris County yesterday. We could encounter a couple of those showers and brief heavy downpours this afternoon, especially the closer you are to the coastline where the moisture levels may be a little bit more favorable, a little bit higher. So along with that rain chance today, air quality not doing too bad this morning. In fact, we've got good to moderate. We were hopeful to get some improvement here. Unfortunately, with the current weather pattern, we are going to be dealing with some higher levels of ozone pollution, and that's not just going to be for today, but through the weekend. So just keep that in mind. Unhealthy for sensitive groups. Harris County, Brazoria County, and Galveston County all under an ozone pollution watch Friday through Sunday. Let's talk temperatures now. Mid to upper 70s, low 80s. Our main focus the last couple of days has been the heat, but also mixed in with that has been the haze. We take away the haze, and now it's setting up to see some extreme heat once again popping up. So we will be dealing with those heat index values above 108. There could be a rain shower or two, but those rain shower chances will hold off until Saturday and Sunday, ladies. Eek.
But let's talk about the forecast.
Hey, let me just go ahead and tell you, nothing to worry about when we talk about tropical systems heading into our part of the Gulf. But those of you that are taking those maybe last-minute vacations before the end of your summer break and you're headed to Florida, that's where we could be dealing with a tropical system early next week. More details on that with my tropical update. Let's get to our weather. We'll talk in detail about the weekend, whether or not we'll see a washout between those 2 days, and then, of course, more on that tropical wave coming up in just a few minutes. Elita. Starting off mostly dry across southeast Texas, but you can see we've got a cold front on the move. This frontal boundary has some showers and thunderstorms along it, and we'll eventually draw in our next best chance for some showers and storms here. The latest on Future Track, and of course those temperatures coming up on the other side of the break. Of seeing advisories today, heat advisory along with excessive heat warnings across much of the south. For us here locally, we're in that heat advisory category, so you can expect those heat index values to climb above 108. There are going to be more spots today, not just isolated like we've seen in recent days, that are going to be closer to seeing those heat index values to 112 degrees, and that's in the shade. At this hour, those temperature readings are already starting off on the warm side in the upper 70s to low 80s. When you factor in the humidity, those heat index values are mostly into the upper 70s to low 80s as well. As we get into the afternoon, you can see the temperature readings are going to be building once again somewhere into the mid 90s. We're at 94 at 1 p.m., going for a high of 97 at 4 o'clock, and then a slow drop off in those temperatures by 8 p.m. We're still in the low 90s, but we'll get some help tomorrow and Sunday with chances for rain going up. It won't be a washout, but there will be a few showers to dodge, and we'll take a look at Future Track to give you a timeline coming up in just a few minutes.
What's on the weather?
We're starting off with the dust first. You can see that yesterday I mentioned that most of the dust would be pushing out of here, and it is verifying this morning with the thickest concentration now over I-20 up toward the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and that's going to continue to lift. We may see a little bit of that dust returning over the weekend as the wind begins to shift. You'll notice the winds this morning coming in out of the Gulf, so that's what's helping thin out those clouds and push it away from southeast Texas. Now, the good news, at least this morning, the air quality is responding, and we're looking at good to moderate air quality for now. With the sunshine today, along with the calm winds, unfortunately, we are going to see an increase in the ozone pollution level. So some of you may want to limit that outdoor activity. As you know, ozone, a lung irritant. Those of you that suffer from asthma as well also could use staying indoors the next few days. This ozone pollution watch is going to start today and continuing through tomorrow. Here is a look at downtown right now. Pretty view, no problems visibility wise. As far as temperatures are concerned, we're right around 80 degrees. The winds are calm. Feels like temperatures inland are mainly into the 80s, but closer to the coastline, we've got those feels like temperatures in the mid 90s already. Check out the water temperature down along the island at 86 degrees. Here's some more current readings for you. Navasota in the upper 70s. Cleveland, you're at 76 degrees this afternoon, forecasting a high of 98, 97 in the Houston area. Closer to Bay City and Angleton, we'll be somewhere into the low 90s. We will see those heat index values surpass 108 in many locations. So due to how long we're going to see those temperatures above 108 or those heat index values above 108, National Weather Service does have a heat advisory that goes into effect at noontime today and will continue through 7 p.m. on Saturday. How about some relief? There'll be a few clouds here and there this afternoon that could prompt a brief heavy shower or downpour. We saw it come into play yesterday. However, we've got a better chance for that as a boundary starts to slide in our direction sometime Saturday afternoon into the evening hours. This is what 13 alert radar could look like sometime tomorrow afternoon, let's say around 4 o'clock on Saturday. Our far northern counties could see the first signs of some showers and storms, and then things could cool off briefly, at least for an hour or two, right along I-10. Houston, be aware between that 6 to 8 p.m. hours when that boundary starts to slide to the south, and then eventually down along the coastline between, let's say, 8 to 10 p.m. The majority of those showers and storms fizzle out overnight, and we should be mostly dry to start off on Sunday. Now, you put the rainfall totals together together but over the next 7 days, and really the only chances we're going to see rain is Saturday and Sunday. And we're not seeing high accumulations in this part of the Gulf. Where we are going to see some higher accumulations is out here over the eastern Gulf of Mexico. We're paying close attention to a tropical wave that does have a high probability of forming. For us, we're going to be on the dry side of that tropical system, and you can see how our forecast responds. It's going to be all about the dry, hot, and humid conditions next week, ladies.
Well, we'll take it after all we've been through, right? Thanks, Elita.
Morning, not too bad. Those temperature readings have dropped off from yesterday's highs in the upper 90s. A live look outside, and it's pretty out there as we look at the beautiful lights over downtown. There is an ozone pollution watch in tap for today. It's going to go through the weekend, included with that a heat advisory. And of course, we're monitoring the tropics, and we've got something that we need to watch as it starts to make its way toward the Caribbean. It now has a high probability of forming into a tropical depression or a named storm. The latest computer models straight ahead.
Talking to Elita this morning about the forecast. Are we talking about the haze?
We're still talking about the haze only because it's gone for the most part. You'll notice that the majority of that haze, the thickest concentration, is located over the northern parts of our state. But we may see a small batch of this haze returning as the winds start to shift from the south to the north. And that is a courtesy of a front that could bring us some rain showers, even a couple of thunderstorms as we get into the weekend. Speaking of showers and thunderstorms, a lot of that now is starting to congregate around what could be the center of circulation starting to develop here with the tropical wave that right now is right over Hispaniola. This is going to continue to track generally to the west and then make a little bit more of a turn toward the west-northwest. In this red zone, this is a high probability of forming here. The formation zone now at 80% over the next 7 days, but over the next 48 hours, the National Hurricane Center has increased that odd to 50%. What are our computer models saying? Well, the majority of these models are now coming together. Earlier in the week, we had models that were keeping it mostly across the eastern seaboard. We have a couple of models taking it toward Louisiana and even Texas. But now the models you can see are congregating somewhere over the eastern Gulf of Mexico. That's going to mean some very heavy rain, the potential for some strong winds, and maybe even a tropical system. If it gets a name, the next name on the list would be Debbie. Versus us, we're on the drier side of that tropical system, so our rain chances will be slim. The next few days really is when we can anticipate those rain chances going up, and it's because of a front and not that tropical system. For today, I've kept that rain chance at about 10%. Some clouds building during the afternoon, during the daytime heating, the peak heating of the day, so an isolated downpour will be possible. But you'll notice a boundary starting to slide towards southeast Texas sometime late in the afternoon during the evening hours. That's when you need to stay weather aware, because a few of these thunderstorms could be on the strong side. They could pack some strong winds, maybe even some hail, but for the most part, those thunderstorms start to fizzle out as they continue to push toward the south. Still a pretty good cluster of showers and storms around 8, 9 p.m. down along our coastal communities, and things should start to quiet as we get into the overnight hours on Saturday. So that rain chance for Saturday and Sunday right around 40%, and then we really start to see those rain chances drop off early next week. This morning, we're starting off on the mild side, 80 degrees. I know we've been dealing with this kind of typical summertime heat, and at times we've seen some above normal temperatures, at least for this time of year. Today, unfortunately, we're still headed into those highs somewhere into the upper 90s, upper 70s to low 80s currently, and we haven't had any heat advisories over the past few days, but it has been miserable out there, especially in those areas where we've been seeing those heat index values surpass the 108 mark. Now, for today, I think we're going to see more areas with 108 or greater. So the National Weather Service has issued a heat advisory, and that heat advisory begins at noontime today and lasting at least through 7 p.m. on Saturday. And as I showed you with Future Track, we're hopeful that a few of those downpours could take the edge off some of this heat. Now, as far as that air quality, unfortunately, that's still going to be taking a hit through Sunday. And then next week, because we're on the west side of that tropical system, it is going to be hot and dry. Ladies.
All right, Elita, thank you. It is 5:51 right now and only on